Hey, on page 6.2 or on the section 6.2, that is, now we're going to specifically deal with a certain letter, and that letter does mean something in math. We're going to refer to lowercase e. Okay? Lowercase e, if you ever see that, that is a number in math. Okay, that actually equals, or as it approaches, 1 plus 1 over x to the x. That's how you would generate that number. But on your calculators, if you have your graphing calculators out, it does have its own button. It's in blue or yellow above the ln. It's like the third one from the bottom on the left. It says e to the x. Okay? So on your calculator, third one from the bottom on the left, in blue or yellow, it's right above the ln button. That button says E. Okay, so that's the button that you're going to be familiar with today. There's certain letters that we use in algebra that you should stay away from. E is one of them, because E is that number 2.71828, blah, 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 goes on forever. Okay, it's an irrational number, meaning it never stops, never repeats. Okay, but it's right there, again, third one from the bottom, in either blue or yellow, above the ln. Okay? So, here's what they're going to ask you to do, first of all. They're going to ask you to simplify some stuff up. And it says e to the third times e to the sixth. Now, when you're looking at exponents like that, are the bases the same? Yeah, they're both e. So what do you do with exponents if the bases are the same? Add them. What's 3 plus 6? E to the ninth. Nice job. You're done. Then, if it has 16e to the fifth over 4e to the fourth, first thing that I want you to do is, let's simplify the 16 and the 4. How does 16 over 4 reduce? 4 over 1 or just 4? And how about the e's? I have 5 e's on top, 4 e's on the bottom. Who has more, top or bottom? By how many? By 1. And you're done. Then, if you have something like this, where it says 3e to the negative 4x squared, okay? When you have a squared power like that, remember, to a product, that needs to go to each power, not just one, which a lot of people mess this part up. But when you do this one, it needs to go here also. Anybody know what 3 squared is? 9. Then when you go to here, what do I get when I multiply negative 4x times 2? Negative 8x. Because remember, it's negative 4 times 2. Now, what if I told you you were not allowed to have negative exponents? What would you do then? What part moves? Okay. Right now, this is over 1. Does the 9 move? No, the 9 does not move at all. What about the e to the negative 8x? Yes, that goes downstairs. When you move it downstairs, it changes the sign from a negative to a positive and vice versa. What do you think? So far, so good? Okay, most of your assignment, or about half of it, is just doing this. You're just working with the bases. You're just working with exponents. Do you want me to do any more of these?
No.
Okay. Then, the second thing that you're going to be responsible for on this section is going to be this. These are the forms that you're going to see most of the stuff in when it comes to graphing. Okay? You're going to see them in this type of format where A and R are going to be a number. Okay? Now, remember last week we talked about exponential growth and decay and the graphs and how they looked? Growth went up the hill, decay went down the hill. Well, without actually putting it in my graphing calculator, I'll be able to tell you what it does based on A and R. Okay? When it comes to A being greater than 0, by the way, what does it mean when A is greater than 0? What numbers am I referring to? 1 and up, or positives, right? Okay, I'm referring to positive numbers. And when the R is also greater than 0, then that's a growth. And if the A is greater than 0, but the R is less than 0, what do you think that's going to be? Decay. So remember last week where we had the first section of this, of section 1, where I asked you, is this growth or decay? And you guys did great. And then you graphed it after that. Guess what you have to do for the second half of your assignment today? You have to tell me if it's growth or decay, and then graph the equation. Yes, sir. What do you mean, the A's? Yeah. Yes. The A's are supposed to be. It's the R, you going to the mall later, that's different. Huh? Later, in another section. But that's transformations. And that's where we have to flip it over the whatever axis. So, if I had something like this, and I said y equals 3e to the x. First thing I'm going to ask you to do is tell whether the function represents growth or decay. Growth. How'd you know it was growth? They're both positives. Right, good. Now sketch the graph. How do you sketch the graph? You could type it in your calculator. What's another option? Could you randomly select ordered pairs and plug them in? Sure you could. But if I do the calculator, okay, and I'm looking at Abby's right now, she got something, and I'm going to change her window here for a second so it's right in the middle, because you had your window a little bit different. But I got something that looks like that. Does that look or represent a growth model? I think so. Okay. So if you look at where she crossed, what number does it look like it crosses at, Ab? 3. Where did the 3 come into play, do you think?
Oh, because it's 3 by...
Remember when we talked about vertically stretching it?
Yeah.
That's coming in a couple days. Okay? But yes, that's exactly how it was. Now, if I ever asked you to come up with a couple ordered pairs to graph that more accurately, what could you do? Look at your table, right? What do you think? Do you want, oh, I suppose we better do a decay.
How do you...
Growth or decay? Decay. Well, because I also said we probably should do one, but how do you know for sure, Zach? Yeah, it's less than 0. Right? Negative 0.5 is less than 0. So, when I type that in, what does it look like? So when I got that on my picture, and looking at Abby's, how she has it, yours comes down like this, hits, and then goes right alongside there. Now remember, depending on the age of your calculator, okay, like some of you guys that have 83s and older 84s that are not color screen, remember that actually does go on forever. It just looks like it overtakes it at the x-axis. But it's actually, if you shut the axis off, you would actually see that. Okay? What do you guys think? Are you guys comfortable with those? Okay? So if you take a look at page 307. On 3 through 12, it says simplify the expression. So what you're going to do for that one is you are just going to simplify it like we did the first 3. Okay? Then on 15 to 22, it says tell whether the function represents growth or decay, then graph the function. So very similar to what we just did for the last 2. Are you guys comfortable with those?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the last thing that we have for you has an equation, and it says the graph shows the balance of education fund over time. Which account has greater principal? Which account has greater balance after 10 years? So what you're going to do is you're just going to use the graph and answer the question. So, are you guys comfortable with these?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. So on page 307 to 308. We got 3 to 21 odds and 35.